Hey, so in this video, I'm going to show how to do this simple bouncing ball animation in Morphin. A bouncing ball is a pretty common animation exercise for beginners. Morphin is perfectly capable of doing it. So let's get started. So I'm going to go and make a new scene. Yep. I'm going to turn on gesture indicator and pencil gestures, and I'm going to set the background color a little bit darker so it's a bit easier to work with. Okay. So I'm going to load this model that I made in Morphin. So you can see this is 700 kilobytes. It's quite small. The wireframe is fairly minimal. So if I go and turn on wireframe, you can see that's what the wireframe is. It's actually probably heavier than I would normally do it, but for the purposes of this, it's fine. And I baked out the textures in Nomad. And I also saved a few blend shapes. So if I go to this button over here, which is the morph target, so choose it first, you can see that I've got, if I turn off the gizmo, you can see I've got a smile blend shape and I've got a blink blend shape. So I'll be using those later. First thing I'll do is I will change the color on this. So if I go across to the shading properties for the ball here, I'm going to tap that and I'm going to choose a color. Let's make it say, actually the red. I like the red. Now we're going to put in a rig. So I'm going to go to the orthographic mode over here. I'm going to go to the fronts, and I'm going to go up to here and going to create a rig. So that will make me a bone. First thing we need to do is I'm going to get the bottom of it to sit at the very bottom of the sphere. So I'm going to move that and put it about there. Make sure I'm still aligned to the axis. And then I want the tip of it to go right to the center of the ball. So I'm going to use this purple circle here and scale that until it kind of sits roughly in the center. That looks pretty good. It keeps going away. Anyway, so that I'm going to make a child bone of that, and I'm going to name these bones. So I'm going to name this one. Whoops. So I'm going to press the name button here. I'm going to call this one position and scale. I'm going to name this one rotation, just so I know what these bones do. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bind the ball onto only this bone. So to do that, I choose the ball mesh and then I select the bone over here. Then I can go to the bind menu and I can choose weight all the current bone. So now if I spin that bone, you can see that the ball spins with it. So that's pretty cool. So I'm going to go down to the bottom of this sliding menu here and I'm going to choose pose, which will reset to the pose it was when I bound it. And we are pretty much ready to animate. So the first bone I'm going to animate is this one. I realize what I'm doing. Normally, because I'm using this kind of setup, so I've got a keyboard and a pencil and my fingers, I like to set up Morphin so that only my fingers can move the camera, but only my pencil can actually animate things. So to do that, go to the settings menu, go to advanced gestures, and in here I'll say that the camera can only be operated by the finger, and everything else can only be operated by the pencil. That just makes it very clear. Whoop, and down here as well. So that should only be like that. Excellent. So now if I use my finger, I can rotate, but if I use my pencil out here, I can't rotate. It just stops accidental clicks. Okay, so I'm going to zoom back a little bit. I'm going to start keyframing. So I'm going to choose the main, the position and scale bone, and I'm going to move this up a little bit to about there. Going to make sure in the advanced menu, I'm keyframing position only. And I'm going to set a key there by pressing the key button here. I'm going to go to the end, set the same key. I'm going to make sure that I'm only doing 30 frames to start with. So I'm going to go to the last frame, set a key, and then at frame 15, I will drop this to the floor. So put it about there and set a key. What I'm also going to do is I'm going to use a bit of scaling to do squash and stretch. So I'll need the ball to be in the same position at frames 14 and 15. So I'm going to go to frame 14. I'm going to make sure that's still on the ground, set a key, go to frame 16, put it on the ground, set a key. So now if I play that back, you can see that is bouncing, but it doesn't have much character to it. To fix that, we can use the graph editor. So I'm going to bring up the graph editor here. I'm going to zoom back a bit. So you can see that we've got these, so these are my keyframes. If I hide the X and the Z, you can see this is my Y motion, my up and down motion. What I want to do is I want to make sure that as it lands, it has a nice sort of sharp spring to it. So I'm going to grab this outer handle here. I'm going to lift it up like that and do the same on this side. make these a little bit taller. So now if I play that back, you can see that has more of a bounce, which is what we want. So that's the position done. Next thing we'll do is we'll do the squash and stretch. So I'm going to turn my gizmo back on again, and I'm going to set keys for scale. So I'm going to get into scale mode. I'm going to set a key at the start and at the end, and then in the middle. So this is going to be the base of the bounce. And the reason I set up two bones here is that now that this pivot is at the base of the sphere, I can use the scale handle here and I can squish it down. And at the same time that I'm squishing it down, I want to squish it sideways so that it looks like it's preserving volume. And I'll set a key there. And then at the frame before, I want this to be like it's touching the ground, but this is where it's moving its fastest. So I'm going to make this be really tall and skinny, like that. And set a key. And the same for when we are animating out. So if I play this now, you see that it's round, and then it gets skinnier and skinnier until it lands there. Then it goes squish. And then at the next frame, I want it to be tall again, like it's springing up and away. So I'm going to make that tall and skinny like that. Set a key. And if I now play that back, you can see this has a nice bit of character to it. Look at the graph editor for the scale keys, and you can see that's basically what we've done. What I will do is I don't want it to start sort of changing scale straight away. I want it to sort of stay round, to say about there. So what I'll do is I'll add a key, and in the graph editor, I'll just pull these values down so that the scales are all roughly the same value as when it started. So now I can see that it stays round, and then it starts to form from there. And think the same on the way out. So I'll put a key maybe there, and I will pull these values back in. So you can see that Morphin by default will have flat tangents on everything. We can have Morphin automatically calculate smooth tangents by going up to the tangent menu up here and press compute auto tangents. So now when we play that back, this feels a lot more smooth and squishy, which is really cool. Okay, so that's the basis of that done. Just because I like to be safe, I'm going to save this. Let's save this and call this red ball bounce version 1. Okay, so the next thing we'll do is I want this guy to rotate while he's bouncing, but I don't really have enough time to do a full 360 bounce in this one single bounce. So I'm going to make him bounce twice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the end time to 60 so that I've got time to do 2 bounces. And I'm going to quickly copy and paste some keys so I can get 2 bounces out of this. So I'm going to go back to position scales, position keyframing. I'm going to choose this key and copy it. I'm going to go to the end, go tap once and then tap again and go paste. I'm going to grab the middle key, copy, go to roughly the middle of this section and paste. I'm going to grab the frame before, copy, frame before here, tap and paste, and afterwards tap and tap again, paste. So now I've quickly blocked in the position keys. If we go to the graph editor, I'm going to do the same adjustment I did before for the tangent hills. So just lift them up like that so it has a bit of character. Cool. Play that back. Cool. And then we do the same for the scale. So change mode to scale keys and going to do some more copying. So choose this key, copy, go to the end, tap and tap again, paste, go to the middle here, copy, go to the middle here, tap and tap again, paste, grab this key, copy it, key before, tap, tap again, paste, over here, tap, tap again, paste. So we're now really quickly blocked in these 2 bounces, which is pretty cool. I was going to put in the extra keys, but actually it looks pretty cool. It makes each bounce feel slightly different. So now we've got 2 bounces, which is cool. So the last thing we'll do is we'll do the rotation. Now the reason I did 2 bones here is that if I choose this bone and I go to a frame where it's quite sort of squished, like say that, if I rotate that, you can see that I can spin the ball, but no matter which way he's rotated in here, the squash and the stretch all feels the same. So it's really handy to be able to decompose these two motions together into 2 separate things. So what we're going to do is I'm going to have them facing straight up like that at the first frame. Make sure I'm in rotation keys and go key. So set a key, and then about sort of halfway through, I want him to be kind of nearly sort of upside down at sort of a very awkward angle, like that. Set a key, whoops, set a key, that button. And then when we get back up to there, we'll have him be back to normal. So I'm going to copy this key, I'm going to copy, and then go to the end, copy and paste. So if I play that back, so it's rotating, but it doesn't quite look right because he's seesawing back and forth. He's not doing a full 360 spin. So we can fix that again in the graph editor. So I'm going to go and open up the graph editor, and you can see that it's this blue line. This is what's making it look like it's ping-ponging back and forth. So if I hide the other two channels and just look at the Z, to move this, I'm going to make sure that I don't drift it back and forth in time. I only want to change its value, which I can do by pressing this lock here and say lock time. So now what I want is I'm going to pull this up, and I'm going to be looking at the last frame until it looks like he's basically done a full spin. So a little more, almost there, almost there. So about there, I think. So let's see what that looks like. Yeah, that's not bad. There's a slight kick, so I can just sort of compare that frame and that frame, because which way does he start turning? He turns that way. So make sure that this one, I'm just going to zoom in here. Another really useful thing that I can do is if, so when I use my two fingers, I can zoom on the graph by pinching it and pulling away, but that does it uniformly. If I want to graph it, if I want to zoom it just vertically, I can drag on the numbers over here. So I'm going to really make this nice and big, and then I'm going to just adjust this number just a little bit more until it gets to about 6.4, I think. And that feels pretty good. Okay, so that's, I think, our animation done. So now we can get into just final bit of polish. So first thing we'll do is I'm going to hide the rig by going up to the rig buttons here, and I'm going to press Partial Rigs. I can turn off the ground plane like that. I'm going to turn off the text over here, not that one, this in info, just so we can concentrate on the rendering. Next, I'm going to make the background nice and light, like that. And then I think what would really help this is, I know what I've forgotten, is the blend shapes. Silly me. So let's go do that quickly. So to get to the blend shape panel, I have to choose the mesh itself. So the mesh has now gone to here. So if I choose that, now these things become active. And I'm going to make sure that under advanced keyframe mode, I'm now setting morph keys. So I'm going to pin this so that it stays active. So I'm going to start him smiling, and I'm going to have his eyes open like that. And then I'm going to say when he lands, so I'll set another key just before he lands. And then when he lands, he closes his eyes and he stops smiling because he's dealing with the impact here. And then when he jumps back up again, I can open his eyes again, and I'll keep his smile where it is. And then on the second bounce, I'll have him blink again. So I'll set keys here, jump to here, set keys, and then go back to his eyes are open and a smile key. And then by the time he gets to about here, I'll start him smiling again and set a key. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, it's not bad. So we'll just look at those keyframes. So I can now hide this panel. So here are our keyframes for smile and blink. I might just run another compute auto tangents here just to get these a bit smoother. Let's see how that looks with the graph editor. What we could do is just put another little blink here so we can see him just doing a little character blink. So I'll start with his eyes open, closed, open. See how that looks. Yeah, because I'm blink. Okay. Now we can get on to final rendering. Let's go to here, and I'm going to, so that we can get a shadow on the ground, I'm going to make a light. So I'm going to go to the menu over here, I'm going to add a light, I'm going to add a spotlight. It's a bit hard to see with this white background, so I'm just going to make the background a bit darker again. There it is. So I'm going to position this light above the ball, move it forward a bit, and then rotate it down so that it's facing towards him. A bit more like that. And then I'm going to turn on shadows from here. So now I can see we've got a shadow. I'm going to just pull that sideways a little bit, look like that. That looks pretty good. So this is, and then we've got the shadow color here. So normally I'd have that nice and dark like that. But because I'm going to be putting this on a light background, I want this shadow to be a bit lighter and actually have a bit of color to it. Just make it look a bit nicer, I feel. So let's go like that. I think would be pretty nice. We can do a few more adjustments. So we've got an environment light here, which is giving sort of the bulk of this lighting, but I might just turn that down a little bit. And instead I'll boost up the effect of this spotlight. So I'll go here and turn up the intensity, so that's a bit brighter. It has a bit of contrast. You probably can't see it in the recording, but I'm getting these sort of slight kind of banding artifacts on the shadow. This is a common thing in computer graphics. It's called it's shadow matte bias, and luckily we have a way to fix that. So if I go to the light options, I can go here to shadow bias, and I can just play with this number. I'm just going to pull it down into negative numbers until those things go away, like that. That's cool. So we've still got our ground plane. Might even increase the environment light a bit so the dark bits don't go quite so dark. So it's just nice and bright like that. I think that looks pretty good. Turn off the handle. And that is our completed animation. And so what we could do now, if we wanted, is I'm going to save this because I like to save my work. Save as, red ball, bounce, final. Okay. Now we can go to the file menu again and go to export, and we can choose video. So now if I hit play, I can get this framed up as I want it, like that, and I can now press record down here. That record a few times, and then hit stop, and then I can choose to save that video to my photo library. That's it. That's how we do some simple bouncing ball animations in Morphin.